Alright, let's take a look at the final 18 class cards from the mini set. Let's start with Rogue. Shatter Shambler, 1 mana, 1/3 elemental, battlecry. Your next Death Rattle minion costs 1 less, but immediately dies when played. Imagine my surprise when I learned that there's actually a Rogue deck out there that's a Death Rattle Rogue. And imagine my second surprise when I learned that it was actually a Mine deck. The basic question is, do you need this card? Because when you don't play this on one, it's presumably like significantly less good since you're missing out the point of the 1 mana 1/3. Anyways, worth considering in that deck. And worth considering in some other Death Rattle Rogue deck. Has a Value Rogue, Thief Rogue, have they hit the jackpot with the Jackpot card? 2 mana, add 2 random spells from other classes that cost 5 or more to your hand. Oh my goodness! 2 draw 2! Plus, you know, with that Tess getting buffed, and you wanting to cast big things with Tess. Is this it? Is the Value Rogue here? Is the Thief Rogue going to transform from the very aggressive core that it is now into a more value-oriented rogue? Also known as Value Rogue? No. Ink Veil Ambusher, 2 mana 1/3 stealth, has +3 attack and immune while attacking. This card is actually recognized by Blizzard as being so powerful that it is already getting banned from Arena. It is like, it would be really easy to just lock someone out in Arena. So this is a good generic rogue card. It's meant for some sort of tempo or mid-range rogue. But the current iterations of rogue are pretty like specific in what they want to do. But it is like a good enough base card that you might want to just try it out in that kind of aggressive Thief Rogue deck anyways. In just any aggressive-ish deck. So it's like, it's a strong card. Just lacks any synergy, but maybe the card is strong enough to see play without the synergy. Alright, over in Paladin Land, we have Myrmidon. 3 mana 3/4, Naga. After you cast a spell on this minion, draw a card. This would have been really good back in the Libram days. And we are not in the Libram days, so this card is not very good. Light Ray, 9 mana 5/5 elemental. Taunt, costs 1 less for each Paladin card you've played this game. This would have been really good in the Libram deck. But, you know, let's actually consider that there is another Paladin card that you can play repetitively. Holy Maki Roll. So you can play this card in your Control Paladin deck, play your Holy Maki Roll, and, you know, heal up 9 times, 10 times, and you can drop these Light Rays for free. Wow. Worth considering in the deck. The only reason why you wouldn't is because you think that your deck is tight enough on cards that you can't fit in the 0 mana 5/5 taunt post Maki Roll. I mean, the Maki Roll might take a while to play. And then you've got Front Lines. 9 mana. Summon a minion from each player's deck. Repeat until either side of the battlefield is full. How can you do this? Well, the most obvious thing is you put in giant cards into your deck, and then you play Front Lines, and then hopefully your opponent doesn't have very many minions on the board, because you're spending all of your mana to play this card. In the ideal situation where you play this in an empty board, you have 7 huge cards, and your opponent has 7 puny cards. And then you survive their attack, and then you kill them with your big cards. In the slightly more realistic version, your opponent's going to have some amount of minions on the board, so Frontlines isn't going to fully summon the board. So maybe they have 2 minions, you both summon 5 minions, and then they attack you after you spent all of your mana. So the main problem with Front Lines is basically you're spending all of your mana and it's a symmetric effect, and your opponent gets to go first with the symmetric effect. It's a problem, but if you do hit a combo deck with this card, you might be able to get some of their like key cards. Your cards can come out and be fast. And the special. What if, kind of like Tip the Scales, you built a Tip the Scales like deck with Front Lines, and you put in Mr. Smite, 2 South Sea Scoundrels, 2 South Sea Captains, and then just, you know, 2 more pirates that had 3 attack, and that's 6/5/5, 3/3, 3/3, plus 10. That's 40 damage! The only requirement is, 1, just dodge drawing all of your pirates. 2, definitely dodge drawing Mr. Smite, of which if you draw it, your front lines is just completely useless. 3, your opponent doesn't have any minions on the board, so you can actually summon 7 for both sides. 4, it doesn't summon any taunts for the opponent. But if all those preconditions are complete, then you can tip the pirates. If you do draw your Mr. Smite, you can use the cavalry horde you have equipped to put the Smite into play, and then you summon all your pirates from your deck. You just gotta dodge drawing all the pirates. See, it's all coming together. Over in Priest World, a huge upgrade on Entomb. It's Drown. 4 mana shadow spell, put an enemy minion on the bottom of your deck. That's a really good card. I mean, just outright, it's really good. But you know what? For all of you who laughed at me rating Defile 1 star, I'm going to pre-rate this card here. It's like somewhere around 2 stars. Because, where are you gonna put it? There's 2 archetypes of priest right now. There's Naga Priest, which doesn't really need the Drown. There's Boar Priest, which, again, doesn't really need the Drown. There's Quest Priest, which is, like, not very great. Is a good 4-drop for that. But, you know, it's not great either. Someday, when Control Priest is good, mark my words, it'll be good someday. It'll be good someday. But, it seems to not be that time. Disarming Elemental, 4/4/4, Battlecry, Dredge for your opponent, set its cost to 6. Really cool card idea, where you basically make your opponent's next draw suck. Presumably they've got, you know, cheap cards in their deck. Could be 1s, could be 2s. Make that card appear on a later turn, and you make it cost 6. Though it's not quite as bad as making the opponent discard a card, but it's similar. They basically skip a draw. And it's a nice proactive play too, so good for a mid-range priest, quest priest. But the main problem is it's not going to make quest priest great by itself, even though quest priest did want a 4, so that's something. Herald of Light, 3 mana, 3/4, Naga. Battlecry, if you've cast a holy spell while holding this, restore 6 health to all friendly characters. Oh wow, it's got a Naga tag. You might immediately think, hey, Naga Priest, that's a deck. I should put this in. But wait. Naga Priest only has 3 holy spells in it. Yeah, that's not enough. But good news for Quest Priest. It's a decent 3 mana, 3/4. Over in Hunterland, we've got Shell Shot, 3 mana, nature spell, deal 3 damage to a random enemy minion. Repeat this with 1 less damage. This is recursive, so it'll deal 2 damage to a random enemy minion, and then repeat with 1 less damage, then it'll deal 1 damage to a random enemy minion. For Quest Hunter, this will potentially be a card that is a spell that deals damage, so, you know, checks that box. This card could go into like some sort of mid-range hunter as well, and it is notably good with spell damage, because with +1 spell damage, instead of dealing a total of 6 damage, deal a total of 10 damage, because it's 4-3-2-1 instead of 3-2-1. So you added the 4. Is this a control hunter tool? Is this especially good at spell damage? Well, what if it's in conjunction with Ancient Krakenbane? 3 mana, 3/3. Battlecry, if you cast 3 spells while holding this, deal 5 damage, and it's a Naga. That's a lot of damage for 3 mana. If you had Bran in play and then you played the Krakenbane, you'd deal 10 damage. If you played Bran and then you went Kraken, that's 20 damage. What if you built a Control Hunter style deck which drew a lot of cards and then just had a lot of survivability? What if that survivability came in the form of Quest Hunter, and then you use your hero power to clear the enemy minions while you draw a bunch of cards with Conscious Shell, and then you got to play your Bran Kraken deck? Would they call it the Kraken Hunter? And you have a hero power that deals 2 damage, so it should be easy to push your opponent into the 20 range, right? You have K9 Otron, 2 mana, 2/3 mech. Battlecry Dredge, if it's a 1-cost minion, summon it. 1 mana reduction on Skydiving Instructor. Skydiving Instructor always got you the 1-cost minion from your deck. K9 Otronon is a little bit more specific. You need to dredge it, so the 1-cost needs to be on the bottom 3, which means to be consistent enough, you have to put quite a lot of 1-cost minions in your deck. And that is not currently something that Hunter would like to do. But maybe someday they would like to do that, in which case K9 Otron has some chance. Demon Hunter gets a Control Demon Hunter tool. Topple the Idol, 5 mana Dredge, reveal it, and deal damage equal to its cost to all minions. It's kind of like Chaos Nova, except with this deck you've probably built your deck to be pretty heavy, so for 5, instead of dealing 4 damage to all, you might deal 6 damage to all. Maybe you'll deal 8 damage to all. Maybe sometimes you'll get the 1, 2, and 3 cards on the bottom, because all the big control decks still need cheap cards. In which case, Topple the Idol, when you miss against the aggro opponent, and you've paid 5 mana for it, to do a board clear, which you're not entirely sure how much damage it'll do, maybe that'll end in disaster, and maybe you should have just ran Chaos Nova. Maybe Big Demon Hunter isn't even close to playable right now, so Topple the Idol is just a pipe dream. Fossil Fanatic, 2 mana 2/2. After your hero attacks, draw a Fel spell. Well, this card's actually pretty sweet. It goes into 2 potential Demon Hunter decks. One is the Fel Demon Hunter deck, one is the Aggro Demon Hunter deck that you all know and love. Aggro Demon Hunter has kind of fallen off a bit, post-Drekthar nerf, post-Multi-Strike nerf. But Multi-Strike plus Fossil Fanatic is still quite good. For 4 mana, you could draw 2 Fel spells and Multi-Strike your opponent and get a 2/2, and have a huge Fossil Fanatic threat still on the board. Sometimes you equip a weapon on turn 1, and then you can just lead into Fossil Fanatic on 2, attack, and then immediately draw a card. Might even be able to attack with your weapon again the following turn. Herald of Chaos! 3 mana 3/4 Naga with Lifesteal. Battlecry, if you've cast a Fel spell while holding this, gain Rush. 3 mana 3/4 Lifesteal, not bad. 3 mana 3/4 Lifesteal with Rush, pretty solid. Aggro Demon Hunter and Fel Demon Hunter both run a bunch of Fel cards. Big Demon Hunter might do that. You'd want a 3 mana 3/4 with Lifesteal and Rush in a number of those decks. Even in the Aggro Demon Hunter deck, if there were enough aggro in the meta, you'd perhaps want Herald of Chaos. A card that Demon Hunter decks will want to consider putting in, and will probably ultimately depend on how aggressive the meta is, to decide whether or not you need the Lifesteal. Mage gets a hilarious Polymorph Jellyfish card. 3 mana Arcane spell, the fact that it's Arcane will come up later, so remember that. Transforms a minion into a 4/1 Jellyfish with spell damage +2. That does transform the minion into a pretty scary thing, and this is flexible. You might polymorph the opponent's thing, you might polymorph your own thing. If you're polymorphing the opponent's thing, you're almost certainly hero powering it with it, because it still's got 4 attack, and the spell damage +2 is substantial. If you polymorph Jellyfish your own thing, presumably you're about to go off with a lot of spell damage. 3 mana to give spell damage +2 isn't necessarily that good. Flexible, but the flexibility options both seem bad. We got Submerged Space Rock, 2 mana 2/2 Elemental. With Death Rattle, add 2 Arcane Mage spells to your hand. At the end of your turn, discard them. I looked through the Arcane Mage pool. There's some cards you'd want to run. There's a lot of cards you wouldn't want to run. And there's a lot of mid cards. Because of the presence of Mass Polymorph, you might want to play Space Rock on turn 6 so that when it dies, you could play the Mass Polymorph on 7. Having a little bit more mana is good, so you can actually cast both spells as well. Spells tend to be reactive, and you having only 1 turn to cast them is kind of rough. But it's a really cool effect where for 2 mana, you get the 2/2 and you get 2 spells, but with a massive requirement that you have to play the spells immediately turn after it dies. Or the turn of its death if you're the one trading it in. And then we've got Lady Nazjar, 5 mana 5/5 Naga. While in your hand, this transforms after you cast a Fire, Frost, or Arcane spell, so can transform multiple times. Pretty flexible Naga. With the Fire spell, it transforms into deal 5 damage to an enemy minion and 2 to adjacent minions. With the Frost spell, it gains 8 armor. With the Arcane option, it reduces the cost of spells in your hand by 1. So in the case of Fire and Frost, you basically got 3 mana type of effects. With the case of Arcane, you got a 2 mana effect, plus you didn't even deal 2 damage, but you got to escape the honorable kill thing. So is it good enough to run a 5 mana 5/5 if it comes with a free 2 to 3-ish mana effect on top? And I don't think there's that many decks that would actually run a flexible value card like her. And she is a Naga, but I don't think she necessarily fits in the Naga mage. She costs a little bit too much, she doesn't do quite enough. But there is one thing going for her, and that's her flexibility. Because sometimes, when times are good, you do just want to reduce the cost of spells in your hand by 1. Sometimes when your opponent's got a pretty spooky board, you do want to just deal 5 damage to an enemy minion and 2 to adjacent. And sometimes, when you're stabilizing, you do want to just gain 8 armor. So, in flexibility, there is power, but maybe she pays too much power for that flexibility. So there you have it. That's all the cards from the mini expansion, Thrones of the Tides. This one doesn't seem like it's going to be as impactful as the previous. The last mini set came with, like, basically meta warping cards, such as Raid Boss Onyxia, Kazaku-san. Kazaku-san got nerfed, by the way, he was too good. Dragon Vein Shot, that got nerfed, it was too good. This time around, I look at these cards and I'm like, you know, they might go into the current archetypes. Some of them lean towards a new archetype, but I'm not entirely sure that that archetype is any good. Looks like these cards could be good, standalone, or into the appropriate deck, but I don't think they're good enough to make that appropriate deck. I think these cards will be good at some point, but it's going to require more support, which may come from the next set.